So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Welcome to my iPhone 13 Pro for review. Now I want to begin by talking about the price and configurations, colors you can get this thing in. So you can see right here, I did go with the Sierra Blue, which is the all new color. It's kind of this light silvery blue color. I really do dig it. Last year's color was the Pacific Blue as their main, new color. And if you're into a darker blue, you would have preferred last year's. But if you're into lighter blues like I am, you'll definitely prefer this new Sierra Blue. And if you're not into too bluish, you like more of a silvery color, you'll also like this blue as well. It's not super blue, but still a lighter silvery blue. That's kind of how I perceive this color. Now, it does have 128 gigabytes for $9.99, so double the storage of a 64 gig phone. This is basically like the iPhone 10 of 2021 right here at the $9.99 price tag, but you get much better cameras these days. You also get double the storage. You can go to 256 gigs for $1,099. You can also go to 512 gigs at $12.99 and the monster 1 terabyte of storage for $14.99. So the price definitely can rise quite a bit. Now keep in mind that the iPhone 13 Pro at 1 terabyte probably isn't very useful for most people unless you are doing film work and using the cinematic video quite a bit for your career or your job or whatever. You're going to be using a lot of video footage. Then I would really recommend the 1 terabyte. Other than that, I would recommend going with 256 gig or 512 for long-term use and 128 gig if you're going to keep it a couple of years. Okay, and when it comes to the body of this phone, it has essentially the same design as the iPhone 12 Pro, but it has larger camera lenses. I'm not sure if you can notice that, but those are definitely some of the largest camera lenses I've ever seen on an iPhone of this size. And you'll see if you look at it on the side, they kind of do stick off the body a bit versus last year's iPhone 12 Pro, which is a little more sleek when it comes to that. It's also slightly wider and slightly heavier at 204 grams. This has got some density to it. It feels kind of like a iPhone XS Max size weight, but it is in the iPhone 6.1 inch, 13 Pro body. So it's got some density, but it's not like too heavy. It's a pretty good size overall, I would say, for most people. And it might even be the sweet spot for a lot of people this year. Also, I will say on the back, I still love the matte texture back. It does feel nice, doesn't attract too many fingerprints, although the sides do get really smudgy, especially on silver or Sierra Blue. You see this so much on the lighter colors. Not that you don't see it on the other colors, but the lighter, that stainless steel, you'll definitely see it a bit more. So I like graphite for that reason. However, this is still a beautiful color. We do have the screen protector on here, but it does have ceramic glass on the front and the back, so it's very sturdy and IP68 dust and water resistant. Design wise, you'll notice the notch does get a bit different there. Some people don't like it, some people are happy with it. For me personally, I want it to go away altogether. I want to see an all-screen iPhone if we're going to stay with these slab style phones, or a folding iPhone in the future. But for here, it does definitely change a bit over the iPhone 12 Pro, which had a kind of a wider notch, but this one seems a little deeper. And some people, are going to like this. Some people are definitely not going to like this. So we'll have to see how it goes. Let me go ahead and turn off dark mode here. But if you can see, there is quite a bit of a difference there. Aesthetically, let me know which one you think is more pleasing down below. Overall, it's a nice body. The upgrade is not really on the build. It's not really on the design too much, I would say. The upgrade is more on the display, battery, and cameras here. This was a safe choice for Apple to bring this one back. While they might be working on something a lot more revolutionary behind the scenes, we'll have to see next year. Okay, so let's cover this display a little bit more. Super Retina XDR, we talked about that. It gets very bright. The usable brightness is very good. One thing I don't like about these 13, all the models, but mostly these Pros as well, is that when you get this phone hot, Apple will automatically dim the display. I know it's, for protection of the battery and stuff like that, but I don't like that. I just want to get that out there before we start raving about the rest of this amazing panel right here. This phone, incredibly bright. I love that you can crank that nits all the way up without needing to get in sunlight. But when you do get in sunlight, these things are ridiculous bright. You'll be so happy that you have this phone when it comes to being outdoors, because you can see it like no other. It's so easy to see this display. Now, does that notch get in the way? Well, it depends on what you're doing. If you're pinching all the way in on a photo, yes, it can still cut into your content right there. Let's go into YouTube. Some people say when you are watching a video, that notch, let's go ahead and hit play, is deeper into your content because it comes down a little further versus wide. I don't know how I feel about this. I really don't watch videos pinched all the way in on iPhones. I usually leave it like that. But if you do this quite a bit, you want the full screen experience, it's still not going to be as good as a small punch hole or, just an all screen overall display. But you can still use picture in picture if you're a premium user and stuff like that. And so that can get it out of the way and while you're doing other stuff. Now, in addition to that with this display, I do have to mention that the 120 hertz does use up a little bit more battery, I would say, than 60 hertz. That's why when you put this thing in low power mode, it automatically limits the frame rate. However, it's such worth it to get a little bit less battery life. Not that it's bad, it's still better than last year's phone, even with the 120 hertz, but it's not as good as if this had 60 hertz. Not saying I want 60 hertz, just saying the battery life does take a little bit of a hit. I will say that the display is super smooth here, no matter what you're scrolling on. It's definitely noticeable when you put it side by side with another panel, but it's definitely something that is a real selling point of this phone. And I think it's one of the main reasons people will pick up the Pro is the 120 hertz ProMotion display. Overall, display upgrades are nice. It looks really smooth compared to last year, and I'm happy with this upgrade. This is one of my favorite phones right now in terms of how smooth the software combines with the ProMotion. You kind of already knew what this was going to be like if you use an iPad Pro with ProMotion before, but having it in the palm of your hand is pretty amazing. On the topic of software, with the iPhone 13 Pro, now you do have the all new focus modes that come with iOS 15 on here. Pretty fun. The new FaceTime features, the new maps. Everything is nice. The average user is going to have to, search out some of the new features. They might see that the settings got a little bit redesigned and things like that. But I don't think it's like a drastic change. Like an average person might not even notice it changed that much. But what changed? The weather icon is different. The weather setup is a bit different. They might notice these little things, but it's not a major overhaul. It's a refinement year with iOS 15 with some nice included new features. I will say though that I still think 6.1 inches is enough to do a split screen mode. So I want to see split screen on these iPhones. This is a larger phone. I mean, you see how it fits in my hand right here. This is not the mini size. It's the regular 13 Pro, and Apple pushed a couple years ago how they're going with the bigger iPhone. So give me some bigger screen features then. I'm a little bit, I want that with the software. Other than that, you're going to get very long software support. It works well here. It's not super hard if you have a decent sized hand to one hand this thing. If your hands are not that big, this is still going to be like a large feeling phone. But if you have decent sized hands, like a little bit on the larger side, this will be really easy to one hand. And the software works great. It's simple, it's smooth, and it lasts. It's got the ecosystem behind it. So software works very well on here. And having this camera in this size, this powerful camera in this size with this software, it feels fun to take photos with. It's not quite as, fun to take as with the Mini, because the Mini is really small and it's very discreet and not quite as large to frame as the Pro Max, but this one is still, it's a good size phone with a really good Max style camera, like with the same camera as the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So it's a good sweet spot, I would say, in terms of the software and what you can do with it. Now, I haven't properly speed tested this phone, but you've seen the iPhone 13 Pro Max. This is the same thing. It gets around the same benchmarks. It gets around the same performance. And basically what the A15 does is it doesn't use all the power until it really needs it. So when you are in, iMovie, a video rendering app, which a lot of people might never even do on their phone, that's where it really will stretch its power. If you're playing a game that requires a little bit more power, that's not one of them. But if you are playing a game that requires more power, it will stretch its muscle a little bit, give you more of the performance you need. And then when you're just doing regular stuff, it'll just use the cores that are necessary, but it still stays smooth with that 120 hertz. And it only has 6 gigs of RAM. So if you have 75 apps open at once, you may in fact see a reload. Rarely, but it could happen. But I don't think for the type of user that's using the iPhone is going to be going through 75 apps at once. You probably are never going to notice any stutter, any lag on this phone. Performance, very strong. Some of the best in the industry right here. So the iPhone 13 Pro Max on battery life has been pretty ridiculously good. I think it's a phone that you can take out, use it all day with the brightness up, taking photos, using social media. You're going to get home and still have like 30-40%, maybe even 50 depending on your use. You could probably stretch into the next day with this phone, and that's pretty amazing at a 6.1 inch size. Usually you have to get the Max to do stuff like that. The iPhone 13 Pro has enough juice to go the distance. However, I think people are giving it a little bit too much credit. I think if you're a super heavy user, you still have to charge this every night. So this is not like, a 2-day phone. And some people saying this is the best battery life ever on a smartphone. No, there are like 5,000 milliamp mid-range, Android phones are like 6,000, 10,000, they're phones people have never heard of out there, like some Chinese brands with like 10,000 milliamp hour batteries will destroy this phone in battery life. But when it comes to premium flagship phones that competes with this, there's not a lot touching this one. So really good standby time, really good screen on time. I'm getting like 7 hours on this thing. Fast charging with the provided that you have the charger, like 27 watts if you have the right charger, 20 if you get the Apple based 20-watt charger. So this thing can charge pretty quickly as well. Overall, I think people are going to be very happy with the fact that they don't got to worry too much about their battery life. So when it comes to cameras, I really don't want to bore you here. It has the wide angle, the 3x, panoramic, cinematic video. I mean, you've probably heard this 1,000 times already. Front facing camera. I just want to mention that it can also do the cinematic video. But yeah, it's an iPhone camera with upgraded zoom, upgraded cinematic video. That's essentially what this is. It has the HDR video, 4K at 60. I'm telling you right now, this is, from my opinion, this is definitely the best camera you can get in this size of a body when it comes to video, when it comes to photo. It's just pretty amazing. For Samsung, you have to go to their Ultra phone to get something like this. So this is probably the best you're going to get in this size of a phone as of right now. As of the recording of this video, we'll have to see what the Pixel 6 does, but take a look at my samples and let me know your thoughts. All right, let's talk audio here.
And one of the most important things about this phone to note is the larger capacity battery at 3240 milliamp hour. It's up pretty good over the iPhone 12 in the battery department.
So the audio on here does get very loud. It also gets very crisp, and that's a very good thing because, you know, we're used to that. We don't want to see this get any worse. So audio, very good. What you would expect for a Pro model phone, or most of the iPhone 13s get very good. This one is no exception here. When it comes to biometrics, I don't know. I wanted to see more than Face ID this year. I was just itching to see some Touch ID on this phone, but a lot of people still like Face ID. It's really up to you. I would say I don't notice any difference besides the fact that when you swipe in, you have the 120 hertz, which just feels smoother. So that's nice to feel that. But other than that, Face ID is exactly the same. I just feel like they could have integrated Touch ID there with Face ID. You have a button that's perfect for it, but already paying over $1,000. I would have liked to see Touch ID with the Face ID, give you the option there. That would have been pretty sweet. Now, when it comes to phone call quality, Qualcomm in here, you know it's going to be good. Good strength, good 5G performance. I even seen 5G UC on T-Mobile Ultra Capacity. You know, depending on which carrier you're using, you're going to get strong performance, strong signal, and very fast, you know, even on mobile performance if you are taking advantage of 5G. So in final conclusion, this might be the sweet spot for a lot of people. You know, they want the best of the best iPhone, but they don't want it in a large body. They don't want to make sacrifices with the iPhone 13. The Pro model is for you. If you like the 11 Pro and you have the 11 Pro, you're looking for a huge upgrade, this might be a big one for you. If you have the iPhone 10, 10s, I'll compare those soon. This might be a good upgrade for you. It's a little bit hard to recommend from the iPhone 12 Pro. This is very similar, gets a bigger camera, but that's, you know, that doesn't mean that the cameras are, you know, a million times better. They are better, but iPhone 12 Pro still has amazing cameras. You know, the iPhone 13 Pro is a sweet spot phone. And if you like this type of size, you like good battery life, you like a good screen, you want the Max, but it's too big, this one is for you for sure. But if you're looking for a total redesign, I would totally wait to see what happens next year. They'll probably do something a lot more drastic than they did this year because they're not going to keep the same design like 5 years in a row. I mean, some people will say, yeah, they do. But for me, I don't think Apple's going to do it this time around. I think they're going to change something up with the display. We'll have to see what happens, but I don't think it's going to look exactly like this one right here. Let me know your thoughts on the iPhone 13 Pro. I'm pretty happy with it. If I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it like a 9 out of 10. It's way up there. Let me know your thoughts overall down below in the comment section. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.